Alright, hello guys. We're gonna get started soon, just enjoying some music for a little while. Make sure you download the Jamil Bashir method at the link in the description. Thanks for letting me know where you're all from. This is where it gets good. Alright. Thanks again for joining, guys. Today we are going to discuss Jamil Bashir. We're going to do some beginner oud lessons together. And I've got in the description a link to the Jamil Bashir oud method exercises that I rewrote with digital notation software, so please download that so that you can get access to it. I'll show it on the screen as well, but it'll be a bit smaller, so I do recommend downloading it. It's for free. I'll explain how you can use this to learn the very basics on the oud. If this is too easy for you, we'll go through some more advanced stuff as well. We'll do a little bit of the beginner stuff as well as more advanced stuff. We'll talk about Jamil Bashir, who he is and why he's an important oud player, and we'll get going from there. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll be happy to try to answer them as best as I can as we go through. Alright, let's get started here. Where's my link? One moment. I'm going to put the link in the chat. Alright, there's the link for you. All right, let's discuss Jamil Bashir. And today we're also going to learn how to play first few notes on the oud. We're going to talk about Jamil Bashir, who is Jamil Bashir, and why this free resource is good to start trying when you're learning how to play the oud. All right, first things first, who is Jamil Bashir? Jamil Bashir is an Iraqi oud player who is very influential. Most people who get into the oud, like yourselves, probably know of his younger brother Munir Bashir, and the son of Munir Bashir, who is Omar Bashir. Omar Bashir is still active today, and he's very well known as well, very prolific, great oud player. And Jamil Bashir was a great influence on Munir Bashir. He was his older brother as well. And Jamil Bashir comes from the Iraqi school of oud, which is a playing style and tuning of the instrument. It has some different variations than the general Arabic style that we find in Egypt, Palestine, and Greater Syria. And it's a little bit different than the style that I play. One thing about Jamil Bashir is that he tuned his oud very high. He learned this from his teacher Sharif Muhyiddin Haydar Targan. Sharif Muhyiddin Targan was an oud player that was educated in the Ottoman oud tradition. But since he was also half Arab, he also had a connection to the Arab world and influenced oud players in the Arab world as well. He later went on to found the Baghdad Conservatory of Music, and that's where he ended up starting to teach Jamil Bashir. Basically, this style of oud playing that Jamil Bashir had was a mix of European style virtuosity mixed with ethnic Iraqi elements. We'll discuss a little bit of that further. Jamil Bashir, he played a variety of styles in the Iraqi maqam, Iraqi folk melodies, and even some Kurdish tunes, as well as various styles incorporated in the Arabic musical tradition. But the Western music influence is quite apparent from some of his original compositions, such as his composition called Caprice. It's very highly technical and very virtuosic, and it sounds like Western music that you would hear composed for classical guitar or for violin. It sounds very European, so it's a bit of a different thing than the mainstream Arab kind of music. But Jamil Bashir played all kinds, as I mentioned. So he wrote an oud method in the 1960s for his particular oud tuning. So let me get down to his oud tuning. He tuned it really high. Now, if you imagine my oud here is tuned C, F, A, D, G, C. So Jamil Bashir, what they would do, the Iraqi school of oud, would actually take the bass string and put it in the highest string position. That's one thing. So then all these strings would shift one lower. His lowest course would be our open D string. Then he would tune the next course to an E, then A, then D, and then G. So if you imagine, so his highest course would have started as high as this. So this is relatively unheard of nowadays. Like no one really plays this tuning anymore. And he learned this from his teacher Sharif Muhyiddin Haydar Targan. And so his course would start here. Imagine the high F tuning, where you have the lowest course is the F string, and then the highest is the high F string, starting here. Imagine that one pitch up. So everything is a bit higher. So that tuning is extremely high, and he wrote tunes for that. He used that in most of his recordings. And on top of that, he had the bass string, which was his tune to G. This would be the pitch. This G would be in the higher position. And the reason why they tuned that way, why they put the bass string at the bottom, was so that they could do drone elements like this. very easy to get that bass drone with the upstroke when you're playing melodies in the higher register, like here. But imagine you're hearing a bass note rather than my high C note. So that's why they tuned that way. I don't know a lot of players that still play that way. But anyway, he made a oud method for that tuning. And later on, people transcribed it and transcribed the oud tuning to change the oud tuning for our oud tuning. Something very similar to it. I won't unpack that tuning very much, but let me go through the method first so you guys get it all cleared up. Alright, where was I? Okay. So if you've downloaded the beginner etudes that I wrote, get those in front of you. I'll show you what they all look. The original oud method was written by hand, and so since I use some of these beginner etudes in my private Zoom lessons, I rewrote some of them so that they're easier to read. If you bring up the PDF, you'll see 25 etudes, which go through the open strings into more complicated 16th note exercises. So here we go. I'll show you what they look like. Okay, you can see that on the screen now. So we've got here, now I've adapted this a little bit for the tuning that I use and the tuning that I teach with. So we've got our bass C here. That's our first open string. Now, second open string from the top is G for Jamil Bashir's oud teaching method. I use F. I found that for most of the beginning stuff, you can just tune to F. So that's why I've written it G, just to copy the, as the method goes. Most beginners do start in the G tuning, but I teach everybody from the F tuning. I think the F tuning is a bit more versatile. So if you want to practice this, whether you're tuned to G or F, basically this is teaching you that the first open strings from the bottom. So let's go through that. Change the camera angle here so you can see this well. Okay, so let's imagine this second note in the second measure is a F, just for our purposes. So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we have another exercise. Etude number 2 starts on the low G, which in our case is tuned F. So you'd go F, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, and G or F, 2, 3, 4. All right. Then we start to continue to practice the open strings. So that's what you would do in order to practice downstrokes on the oud. You would practice these. Now, making sure that you are holding the oud properly. Get your right leg up so that your oud can be held properly. You've got your arm coming around the oud like getting in a headlock. And you've got your forearm digging into the edge of the oud there. And your hand and risha, you grasp the risha with between your index finger and your thumb. Get a nice curve in the thumb. Not more than a centimeter coming out from the thumb and the index finger. You want to imagine that you're turning a knob on a dial or something like that. That's what you want to do here with your index finger and thumb. Then your fingers come and curl in all the way to the palm there and come to the oud. You want to play around in this area. Not too far close to the bridge, not too close to the sound hole, just about here for the beginner. And then you want to imagine someone is tied a string to your thumb and is pulling the string up and then letting it go. You want to just do this. You don't want any resistance from the strings. You want to make sure that your thumb is nice and curved so that you're giving the risha nice support, and that you're coming down very strong. Just let the weight of your hand fall. That's the motion in the wrist that you want. You don't want this. You don't want any you don't want like too light of a picking style right now. You want to develop your whole range of your motion. Later on, you can then focus into one string. And then the left hand, you come up here. Imagine you're going to give somebody a handshake. You come up to the oud, give the oud a handshake here, and they always have some contact between the base of the index finger or the base of the palm here and the fingerboard. Always. There's always that contact. Don't play like this. You don't want a hole here. No hole. Always touching. You can have it vertical as long as it's touching. You can have your fingers vertical or to the side. You want to have nice stretch, be able to hit each semitone position with each finger there. Alright, so that's the position of the left hand that you want to have. Let's go through the oud method a little bit more and follow along. So these etudes 1 to 4 and 5 are all open strings. So let's look at number 5 here. So we've got G, and then we go to the upper G. So we'll play G with a downstroke. Now we have to use our index finger for G because we are tuned to F. Then G, then D. Then you have G, A, G, G, D, G, D, G, C, G, C, G, G, A, G, 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 2, 3, 4. So that's exercise 5. Now when you're stroking the oud, you want to make sure that that when you stroke, your risha lands on the string below when you're plucking a string. See how it lands like that? It just gets stopped there. You can see the angle of my wrist a little bit better here. Alright. Okay, let's move on to exercise number 6. This is the very first positions that you're learning and the first notes that you're learning on the oud. You've got B flat and E flat in the key signature, and let's show you these notes here on the oud with the left hand. Okay, sure my camera angle is good. Okay, so you want to first imagine finger spaces on the oud, almost equal finger spaces on the oud here with 1, 2, 3, 4. In this where my second finger is, that's where you want to put your index finger. You want to find the A note. So we have open G in the beginning there, 1. Then we have A. First finger. The number 1 on top of the note means the finger that you use. And then we have B flat with our second finger. Goes right in front of that. Then A, then G, B, A, G, G, A, B, A, G, A, B, A, G, A, 2, B, 2, G, 2, G, 4. Okay? So each of these notes are quarter notes. So if you know music already, you know that lasts for one beat, each of these notes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. These notes up here, if you're not familiar with reading music, these notes with the empty center, that's worth 2 beats. So when you count in 4, these are all in 4/4, 4 beats per measure we've got, and these symbols are 1 beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4 adds up to 4 beats in the measure. So that's how you read that. And let's move on to the next one. So now look at the key signature here. We have B flat. So we're starting this on the D string. We've got 0 here. That means the open string. So let's go through that. So we start here. 1. Then first finger is in the same position as where you were playing the A earlier. Now it's just on the D string, and that's where our E note is. Then we got F, E, D, F, E, D, D, E, F, E, D, F, E, D, E, 2, A, 4, D, 2, 3, 4. So when I play one note above another, let's say I've got my index finger on E, and then I have an F next. When I put my F finger there, my second finger there, I keep my index finger on E, so that when I go back to E, I just lift up the finger. That's an important technique. Now, there are wider intervals on the oud, like let's say D, E flat, F sharp, G. Now sometimes, depending on the technique, sometimes you have to do a little bit of jumping. Jumping is okay. So sometimes your index finger or other fingers are going to leave the fingerboard, but you want to keep them as close as possible so that they don't have to move a long way in order to hit the notes that you want to hit. So a little bit of jumping is okay, but when you're playing in positions that are really close together, you don't need to take your fingers off. See, my index finger stays on there, so that if I just take it off, the E note's there ready to be played. That goes for any combination that you play when fingers are close together. Alright, let's move forward here. So these are the first 2 exercises that I recommend learning so that you can learn the notes G, A, B, and then D, E, F. Then here we have another exercise, again just doing the same kind of idea. Now we've got E natural notated here, but we have E flat in the key signature. This is kind of funny, I don't know why he wrote it like that, but nevertheless, if you keep on going, it starts to get more complicated. Okay, let's see, exercise number 11. We've got the same notes. We've got G, A, B, and now we're playing 8th notes. So each of these are half note values. So it goes like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 so in this exercise, I want you to do it all down, up, all the way through. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, until you reach a quarter note. Then you play down, and then start a down, up pattern again with the eighth notes. Now the principle we have in general in oud music is that sometimes eighth notes can be played completely with downstrokes. If the piece of music is really fast, you may want to play eighth notes with down-up patterns. So that's that one. These are good exercises, really good to do the down-up pattern. So, and one thing to watch out for is that in this section here, when you go from G to F, you're doing a down followed by an up. Now, usually in oud technique, the way that I first learned was to play when you change strings in a descending fashion. Let's say when you go from G to F, you'd play two downstrokes. But later on, I learned that you can actually do an upstroke, which improves your technique and it improves the speed at which you can play. So I always teach people now to change strings with an upstroke, and to do that. Developing that that technique helps you along the way. So you practice this, doing it very slowly: G, down, F, up, so that you can keep a consistent down-up pattern. It's a very useful technique. All right, let's keep going. So this, you can keep going and keep learning all the positions. You can see here that the bass note G I've written with a 1 on top. That means if you use the first finger, because I'm tuned in F. So for my students who use the same tuning as me, when I use these exercises for them, I get them to use the first finger. All right, let's see. Let's get to something a bit more challenging. Okay, exercise number 20. This is really good practice. So we've got 16th notes. So we've got 4 notes per beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you want to start this very slowly. The way we count this in English, anyway, we count it 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and so if you want to count it like that, you can do it. I go 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and so remember F sharp we've got there. I made a mistake there. F sharp in the key signature, so this F becomes sharp. We use our third finger for it. Okay, so this is great practice. This will help you, if you practice this, it'll help you develop your tremolo, because when we first start learning tremolo, we start to apply it in a tremolo with 16th notes. That's a very straightforward way of doing it, but you increase the tempo and you can play a bit faster. 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So then if you do it faster and faster and you practice it and you get very comfortable with that, you can practice it like this. Now notice when I go and do that arpeggio, I've got my first finger on G, then I just switch I just kind of lean in my index finger over the string to hit that B natural. right, so I hope that gives you some good practice to do. Then it starts to get more complicated. Now here we have quarter tones. So we've got B quarter flat and we've got F quarter sharp, or F half sharp, B half flat, depending on how you want to call it. So these are microtones, and this takes this is beyond this lesson, but if you already know or where the quarter tones are, then you can start to use this. But I would recommend for beginners to just do the first 20 exercises to learn where some of these positions are. And always be thinking about the numbers corresponding to each finger and where they are. Alright, so that's all I wanted to show you for today. I hope you enjoy these etudes by Jamil Bashir. I want to answer any questions you might have, so let me know if you have any. I have a small 5-course oud tuned A, B, E, A, D. Yeah, it looks like you have something that's more that's close to Turkish tuning. It's basically the same tuning, except that it's one note higher, everything. So you will want to tune it down if you want to use these lessons. Basically, the technique is the same. The intervals are the same. The notes are just higher versus lower. So the technique is basically the same for the most part. All right, thanks for joining, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. Happy to answer any questions you have. So I wanted to let you know, while you're getting your questions down, I wanted to let you know that next week we're also going to do another YouTube live session, and the following week after that, doing some more beginner oud lessons. Another heads up, might have a good deal for paid oud lessons at the end of the month. So keep that in mind, and keep your ears open for anything that comes your way. If you're on the newsletter list, if you've downloaded the Jamil Bashir etudes that I provided, you automatically get on the newsletter, and so you'll hear about any new oud lessons that I've got happening, the free ones as well as paid oud lessons. Yeah, the foundation program, we use C to C tuning, so C, F, A, D, G, C. That's the tuning that we use in the foundation program. So, can you tell me what to look for when buying a good oud? I'm a guitarist. I actually, CP Studio, I've got a whole 3-part, I think it's a 3-part series on YouTube, some of my live sessions that deal with what you need to do to find a good oud and what to look for. So check those videos out. I'll try to link it here while I have the chance. But to summarize, it's important to, first of all, know what kind of oud you're looking for. A good oud will be built well, and it will have low action. So the distance between the strings and the fingerboard should be playable. Shouldn't be higher than 3 millimeters from where the neck joint and the body of the oud meet. All right. Okay, so start with, I've got the link here. Start with this video, and then watch the other ones, and that should give you a lot of information about what you need to look for when you're buying an oud. All right, any other questions you guys have about playing the oud? please let me know. Happy to take some time to answer. I've got some time left. Any plans to do a Celtic music lesson? I hadn't planned on it, no. Celtic music is a little awkward for me to play on the oud. It takes some time to develop the technique for it, and right now I'm focused on developing my technique in more Arabic and Turkish repertoire. So I don't really have the time to really develop the technique to play Celtic music adequately or very well on the oud. It is really different, and you really have to spend the time to develop the technique on the oud to play Celtic music. I have one video where I did some Celtic jigs on the oud, and it took a lot of practice to really do justice to them. So not in the immediate time frame. I'm not planning on it. So what angle am I plucking the strings? That's a very good question. Here, try to do my best to explain this. So there is a variety of angle that you can have. When the risha comes up and comes down, it's going to hit at a slight angle. It's going to attack at a slight angle just before the 90-degree mark. Now, if you hold your wrist a little bit differently, you can actually come down at the 90-degree mark. So there's different angles, and you get different sound intonation from each. Now, on the way down, if you have a standard attack, which is going to be at a little bit of an angle, I don't know the exact angle, but if you can see from my hand, you can see that the risha is pointing upwards. So there is a bit of an angle when it comes down before coming here. So if you want to you can play with a more parallel attack where the risha is parallel to the ground. And that way, but there's always a little bit of an angle. But when there is an angle, the downstroke sounds more full and more strong than the upstroke. So that's a common question that people have about playing the oud. What should the angle be? This is a very straight angle. I'm comfortable more at a little bit of an angle like this. So there is a little bit of an angle there. It's hard to know exactly how much of an angle it is. But the more you dig into it, and if you dig into the strings at a strong angle, at a really strong angle, you may find some difficulty. You may find that your index fingers are touching the strings and scraping along a little bit too much. So you want to have not too steep of an angle. Don't hit too in. You want to be not completely parallel. I don't like too parallel because I feel like you don't get so much strength out of the sound. But you don't want to have too deep of an angle either. Kind of something comfortable like this. If you do more of a parallel angle, you'll get a little bit less difference in tonal quality between the downstroke and the upstroke. But it takes some time to develop that. So I recommend, above all, just practicing slowly. The Bashir's they do make ouds. I've heard good reviews. One of my foundation students actually picked up Bashir oud. He's actually on the website. His picture of him holding the oud. He's really happy with it. He likes that sound, that particular sound. What's the sixth string for? the bass string. The bass string is to produce a drone sound, and also to beef up some of your notes and to play rhythms. So you can do stuff like that, and it sounds really quite good. So why is the fifth string from the bottom tuned to F instead of E? So there's not really many maqams that are based on E in the repertoire. It's just not really in the repertoire. There are some now that is a valid tuning. So we can tune the oud from low to high. We could tune it C, E, A, D, G, C. That is a valid tuning. Some people are using that tuning. It depends on the repertoire you're playing. If you want to play a key in E or a key in A, sometimes the E string is good to have. But in the repertoire that I play, I rarely need it. I'm actually notating a piece of Khaliji music. I think it's Khaliji or Gulf music right now. That's actually using the E string as an open note, because the maqam is based on E, and that's probably for the singer's voice. So anyway, that's one of the reasons why F is a really important note in modulation and for playing different keys. Often they play. Okay, I got cut off there. I got disconnected, but I'm back. What is a good warm-up technique before doing lessons and maqams? I would, if I were to warm up, I would just do stuff like this: down, up on one string. When you're practicing, also remember to really, when you're warming up, really try to get sound out of the oud. Don't be afraid of the strings. When you're practicing, whatever it is you're practicing, don't be afraid to hit false strings here and there. The important thing is to get the sound out of the oud. Feel the weight of your hand too as it comes down. That's what I would do to warm up. Also do just some exercises that like this. Just using the closed hand position to exercise the pinky. A, B flat, C, B flat, A, B flat, C, B flat. And then do this on different strings. So forth and so on. That's what I would do. Just stuff like that. That's good warm-up. Anything is a good warm-up. Also this exercise where you do downstroke on one string and upstroke on another open string. Great warm-up. Alright, let's see what else. Have I tried flamenco stuff on the oud? I really don't like oud and flamenco music mixed together, to be honest. I'll be completely honest with you. It's not my bag. It's not my cup of tea. The whole mixing flamenco music with oud, it's just not my style. I don't enjoy the music. If I want to listen to flamenco music, I would just put on flamenco music just as it is. The value of adding oud to flamenco just doesn't really appeal to me. Like, the guitar can play flamenco music much better than an oud can. I don't know why. What the oud actually adds to flamenco music is, I don't know. It's just not my thing. But a lot of people like that, and that attracts them to it. But I'm not a huge fan of flamenco music in general. I do like Iberian style Celtic music. I really love that style of music, and I think that really lends itself well to oud. Iberian style Celtic music is beautiful, but I'm not a huge fan of flamenco, to be honest. Um, have I tried singing while playing? Yeah, a little bit. I want to do more, but I need to spend time into putting more time into singing and playing oud. So what part of your body secures the oud? That's great. 3 points. So most of it is your leg at the bottom here, being high up, the back of the front of your body, and your arm coming around your forearm, touching the edge of the oud. That's it. You should be able to hold the oud without your left hand. Your left hand, it should be completely free and being able to move. One thing that you could use, which I recommend for everyone, even myself, are these carpet stoppers. And just put it on your leg. It'll keep the oud from moving. I use it sometimes when I'm practicing a lot. It takes away some of the muscle tension that I have in my body. That's great to use. Do you think that warming up with tremolo is good practice? Sure, do it. Start slowly. Go into tremolo really slowly. So just start with basic down up patterns, and then get into tremolo after you get warmed up. So that when doing the ferdash or the tremolo, how can you sustain the sound when having to change strings? There's always going to be a little bit of cutoff, but what it is after a while you just get quicker at it as you practice. The key thing is to develop a consistent tremolo. You don't need to have a fast tremolo so much as a relaxed, consistent tremolo. This is a very relaxed tremolo. This is a very fast tremolo. The fast tremolo is not really necessary. You can still, what makes the tremolo sound better is consistency. So you don't. You have to really be careful of your posture when you're playing oud. If you really hunch over the oud, it can give you some back problems. So you want to always take breaks, stretch, roll your shoulders. All right, we got disconnected there, but I'm back now. All right. So the angle of fingers. The angle of fingers when you're playing the higher strings, yes, there is a little bit of an angle. You can see like my fingers are completely angled, kind of like a violin player's. As you get to the bass strings, there's less of an angle. Now some players play very vertical. That's fine too. It's going to be a little bit of both. When I play the bass strings, they're completely vertical, but there's always the touching of the palm or the base of the fingers there. But when I play the bass strings, very vertical. So a little bit more vertical, but there's a little bit of an angle. You got to find what's comfortable for you. So it depends on where you're playing. I have a stronger angle when I'm playing up here. All right, and I don't use the tip. I just use the fleshy part of my finger. Just the tip of the fleshy part. Yeah. Changing strings. You don't need to change the oud strings very often. I change my oud strings every 6 to 12 months. I like the warm sound of broken in strings, so that's what I use. All right, guys, that's all the time I have. Thank you for signing up for my newsletter and signing up for the Jamil Bashir etudes I'm really happy to see you guys up here. I hope this can help you guys. If you have any questions about learning the oud, email me at support@oud4guitarists. Stay in touch. Next week we'll have another oud lesson here. We'll be learning how to do dotted notes and reading those, and some things that might help you with the rhythm on the oud and that kind of thing. And stay tuned. Keep in touch with all the news. There might be some deals at the end of the month that I'll be putting together for paid oud lessons. All right, thanks so much, guys. Take it easy. Bye.